Part 1. You know how people always say, if something feels off, it probably is? Yeah, I ignored that advice like a champ. Call it love. Call it denial. Call it being a damn fool. My name's Jake. 36. Software engineer. Married to Lisa for almost 9 years. We had one of those lives that looked good from the outside. Nice house in a sleepy suburb. 2 months named after 80s movie characters, Gizmo and Ripley, and Taco Tuesdays that bordered on sacred ritual. We weren't flashy, but we were solid. At least that's what I thought. We didn't take reckless risks. We used protection religiously, even in marriage, not because we didn't trust each other, but because that's just who we were. Careful, planned, smart, and we got checked for STIs every 6 months. Not because we had to, but because we wanted peace of mind. So when Lisa came home from her annual appointment looking like she'd seen a ghost and told me she'd tested positive for gonorrhea, something broke in me. Quietly, subtly, like a small leak in a pipe that slowly floods the basement while you're sleeping. I blinked. Wait, what? Gonorrhea. She looked at me, deadpan. It has to be a false positive. And just like that, my gut screamed. See, Lisa doesn't flinch under pressure. She's calm, collected, rarely slips. But her eyes were twitching, just enough for me to notice. And it wasn't the first time lately that she'd been off. For months, there'd been small things. Late nights that turned into emergency meetings. A sudden obsession with working out twice a day sometimes. Locked bathroom doors and whispers behind them. Laughter at texts she never let me see. I chalked it up to stress. New responsibilities. Trying to better herself. But that night, that diagnosis, it was like someone flipped on a black light and suddenly the stains were everywhere. I told myself not to overreact. I'm a logical guy. Facts matter. But the more I tried to calm myself down, the more my mind went places it never used to. We sat in silence during dinner. I kept glancing at her. She was stirring her food more than eating it. I asked how her day was, and she rattled off a generic answer that could have been copied and pasted from any Tuesday in the last year. No eye contact. Just detachment. Later that evening, I found her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs showering. I didn't touch it, I swear I didn't. But I stared at it like it was radioactive. And maybe it was. It held answers I wasn't ready to hear yet. Instead, I went to her bedroom, laid in the dark, and tried to breathe through the pounding in my chest. Was I going crazy? Was I seeing things that weren't there? But I couldn't stop remembering the other moments. The work retreats she never used to attend. The perfume she only wore on girls' nights. The smile she gave when texting someone, different than the one she gave me. Once, about a month ago, I'd asked if she wanted to do a weekend getaway. Just the two of us. We hadn't had real alone time in a while. She looked up from her laptop and said, "That sounds exhausting." I laughed. Exhausting. Yet, she said, not missing a beat. "Can't we just have a quiet weekend at home?" I let it go. Like I let a lot of things go. Because I trusted her. Because love isn't supposed to feel like interrogation. But now every moment was being replayed with a different lens. The next morning, I watched her getting ready for work. Same routine. Hair curled, subtle makeup, spritz of perfume behind her ears. She looked beautiful. She always did. But now I wasn't sure who she was getting beautiful for. "Big meeting today?" I asked casually. She paused mid-spray. "No. Just, habit." I nodded. She smiled. And then she kissed me on the cheek and walked out the door. That kiss felt like a decoy. And that's when I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I started logging things. Not like a madman, just tracking. Receipts in her purse that didn't match her stories. Changes in her workout schedule. Her location sharing on our phones, which used to be a safety thing, now conveniently turned off. One evening, I found a receipt from a hotel downtown. It was from a Wednesday. She had told me she was at yoga. Unless yoga now came with overnight stays and minibar charges, something wasn't right. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than suspicion. I needed clarity. Proof. Whatever truth was buried in this mess, I had to dig it out myself. I wasn't going to be the guy who exploded and got it wrong. But I also wasn't going to be the guy who sat back and watched his marriage decay in real time. Lisa kept smiling, laughing, acting like everything was fine. But behind those smiles were shadows. And I was starting to see them clearer every day. Part 2. I didn't become a private investigator overnight. But when your wife tests positive for an STI you didn't give her, you either start asking questions or you go insane. I chose questions. I started with her phone. Not in a Hollywood hacking kind of way. Just, observing. Her screen used to light up on the counter like a slot machine. Now, it was always face down. Notifications turned off. And she suddenly had a password. A 6-digit one. We'd never had passwords between us. I asked once, casually, why she locked it. Work stuff, she said, brushing past me. Compliance policy. I forgot to mention it. Sure. That made sense. If I forced it to make sense. Location sharing had been a feature we enabled after a minor car accident a few years back. She'd flipped her SUV on black ice, and ever since then, it was just something we kept on. For safety. Now, when I opened my app, it showed location unavailable. I asked her about that too. Must be a glitch. I'll fix it later. She never did. I tried not to read into it. I really did. But something kept tugging at my spine like a silent alarm. I started testing small lies. Asking the same question twice, once in the morning and again at night. What did she have for lunch? Who she met at work? How long her yoga class was? The stories shifted slightly, like they were on a swivel. The kind of lies told by someone skilled. Practiced. One Saturday morning, I offered to take her car in for service. She hesitated, then said, No, I already did that yesterday. Oil change and all. I checked the glove compartment later that day. No receipt. No sticker on the windshield. Oil still looked dirty. So either she forgot, or she lied. I kept things quiet. I didn't want to tip her off that I was watching. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. I needed leverage. Facts. Cold, hard evidence. I started using my engineering background for something more personal. A GPS tracker under her car. It was small, magnetic, nearly undetectable. Took all of 10 minutes. Next, I mirrored her iCloud account to an old iPad. I told her I'd sold it on Facebook Marketplace. I hadn't. At work, I functioned on autopilot. No one suspected anything. I was Jake, the reliable guy who hit deadlines and never missed meetings. But inside, I was unraveling wire by wire. The iPad started lighting up with new data, photos, location pings, occasional calendar invites. Nothing overtly damning. Not yet. But patterns were emerging. Certain areas downtown she frequented that weren't near her office. Meeting notes that didn't match her supposed schedule. And then came the texts. Not a name I recognized. Just initials, TM. The messages were fragments, partial backups, sometimes just a notification preview before she deleted them. Things like same time next week and you were amazing today. The kind of texts that don't come from coworkers. I stared at the screen, heart pounding, screen brightness dimmed in my office. Was it enough to accuse her? Not yet. So I asked her. Not directly. More like poking the edges of the truth. So who's TM? I asked one night while she was cooking. She paused, just half a second too long. She said, still stirring. Someone in your contacts. Popped up when I was trying to airdrop you something the other day. She turned, shrugged. Oh, probably Tom. From marketing. Tom. Sure. Never heard of him before. I smiled, nodded. Right. Tom. She didn't ask why I was asking. Part 3. It was a Tuesday when the truth stopped whispering and started screaming. I sat in my car outside a downtown parking garage, the engine off, keys still in the ignition. In my lap, my phone buzzed once, then again, each vibration a heartbeat. My private investigator, Daniel, had just sent me everything. A zip file. Photos. Videos. Location logs. Timestamped. Cross-referenced. Brutal. I stared at the screen for a solid minute before my thumb moved. I don't know what I expected. Maybe some plausible misunderstanding. Something I could rationalize. Cling to. But no. The first photo was of Lisa. Her back to the camera. Easily identifiable by that burgundy coat she only wore on cold, cloudless days, the kind she used to call cinnamon weather. She was outside a hotel. Not just walking in. She was kissing a man at the door. Full-on kiss. Hand on his chest. His hand low on her back. The next few photos showed them entering the building. No attempt to hide. Broad daylight. Just casual betrayal. There were 6 more sets taken over a 2-week span. Different days. Same hotel. Same man. I clicked play on a grainy video silent, but damning. It showed them leaving the hotel together, her head on his shoulder. She looked lighter than I'd seen her in months. Happy. Weightless. Like I used to make her feel, once. I paused the video. Let the frame sit there, frozen. Lisa, smiling. And next to her, him. The man who was supposed to be a stranger. The man labeled TM in her phone. But he wasn't a stranger. His name was Trevor Madsen, our financial advisor. The guy we sat with just 4 months ago to discuss refinancing our mortgage. The one who drank the bourbon I gave him, shook my hand, and called Lisa Mrs. Carter like a damn gentleman. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. For a while, I sat in my car and just stared through the windshield, watching people walk by, laughing and chatting and going about their lives like the world wasn't falling apart. I felt like I was in an aquarium sealed off, underwater, soundless. Eventually, I drove home. Quiet. Mechanical. Like my body remembered how to function even if my brain had shut down. When I stepped inside, the house was warm. Cozy. The diffuser was on lavender. Lisa's favorite. Gizmo barked at the door, tail wagging. Ripley trotted behind him. Lisa was in the kitchen. She turned when she heard me. "Hey," she said. "You're home early." I looked at her face. The same face I'd kissed 1,000 times. The one I used to trace with my fingers when she fell asleep on my chest. There was a lipstick mark on her coffee mug. Pink. Soft. Probably the same one she wore when she kissed him. "Yeah," I said. "Slow day." She smiled. "You okay?" "Fine." I sat down. Ate the dinner she made. Watched a show with her on the couch. Nodded at all the right places. Laughed, even, once or twice. It was a performance. And I was good at it. Because while she was talking about weekend plans, I was cataloging details in my mind. Passwords. Paperwork. Shared accounts. Hidden assets. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to break things. That's what she'd expect. That's what he'd expect. No. I had a better idea. The next morning, I called Daniel again. "I need more," I told him. "I need text logs. Emails. Anything you can get. Especially financials." He was silent for a second. "You want to dig into hers, or his?" "Both." It turned out Lisa had been planning more than secret rendezvous. There were bank transfers. Odd withdrawals. A new private savings account opened under her maiden name. She wasn't just cheating. She was preparing for a life without me. I spent nights in the guest room, telling her I was snoring too much again. She didn't question it. She barely noticed. Which made it easier. Every evening, I played my role. The loving husband. Distracted, sure, but still present. Still there. And every night, I stayed up late going through what Daniel sent me. I found an email from Trevor. It read, "It's almost time. Be patient. He's not suspicious yet. We'll be free soon." That word, free, kept ringing in my head. Like I was a prison. A burden. Like I'd spent the last 9 years building a life, only for her to view it as something to escape from. I started creating backups. Copied every document from our shared drives. Printed out messages. Logged timestamps. Highlighted overlaps between her lies and her movements. Each detail felt like driving a nail into the coffin of our marriage. And yet, I felt no rage. Only clarity. I'd always thought heartbreak would be loud. Explosive. A man tearing apart his house, shouting at the ceiling, breaking mirrors. But mine was quiet. Clinical. Focused. Lisa still kissed me goodbye each morning. Still called me babe in texts. Still wore that same silver necklace I bought her on our 3rd anniversary. But every time I looked at her now, I saw a stranger wearing my wife's skin. The real Lisa, the woman I loved, she was gone. And the one who replaced her? I didn't recognize her anymore. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't want her to know how much I knew. I wanted her to keep lying. Because the more she lied, the easier it would be to burn it all down with a smile. And when the time came, she wouldn't see it coming. Not from me. Not the man she thought would break. Later that night, I found TM in her contacts. No last name. No photo. Just the initials. I copied the number. Next morning, while she was showering, I texted it from a burner app. "Hey, it's me. Can we talk later?" A minute passed. Then 3. Then a reply. "Can't. Not safe. Text you after 6. And that was the moment I knew. She was hiding something. Something big enough to require caution. Secrecy. Codes. Still, she played the role well. That weekend, we had brunch with friends. She smiled. Laughed. Leaned her head on my shoulder like nothing had changed. Like our marriage wasn't crumbling under our feet. She kissed me that night. Initiated intimacy. And I let it happen. Out of some twisted curiosity, maybe. To see if she could still look me in the eye afterward. She could. And that terrified me. Monday morning, she left early for strategy meetings. I watched the GPS as it drifted, not toward her office, but west. toward a hotel chain we'd once used for weekend escapes when we were too broke to travel. She stayed there for 2 hours. Then the dot moved again, straight back to work. That night, she told me her boss had taken the team out for lunch. I smiled, said nothing. Later, I checked her purse. Tucked in the side pocket was a crumpled receipt. 2 entrees. 1 dessert. Bottle of Pinot. Room charge. Same hotel. Same day. She hadn't even thrown it out. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at that paper like it was a blueprint to another life, one I never signed up for. Lisa was lying. No more room for doubt. But the question wasn't if she was cheating. It was who with. And more importantly, why now? Because something about the secrecy didn't feel like a fling. It felt like preparation. Like she was getting ready to leave. Or worse, take something with her. Part 4. By now, I had a war chest of information. Bank transfers. Hotel visits. Emails. Lies upon lies, woven so tightly that not even she could separate truth from fiction anymore. And yet, it still felt like there was something deeper. Something I hadn't seen yet. So I kept digging. Daniel came through again. This next part, he said over the phone, it's going to change how you see all of this. He wasn't wrong. It wasn't just the affair. Wasn't just the stolen affection or whispered rendezvous. Lisa wasn't only betraying our marriage, she was stealing from the company. My company. Turns out Trevor, the man she'd been warming hotel sheets with, wasn't just our financial advisor. He'd once worked for a shell firm that invested in small tech startups like mine. When we launched 5 years ago, I'd pulled funding from several sources. One of them had been a firm recommended by Lisa's cousin. I never questioned it. They wired the money, no strings attached, and we moved on. What I didn't know was that Lisa had a quiet stake in that firm. A trust, hidden beneath a layer of legal red tape. Her maiden name, buried under initials and legal proxies. She wasn't just sleeping with Trevor. She was colluding with him. And the plan had been set years ago. Back then, our marriage was fine. Or maybe I thought it was. Maybe I was just a stepping stone. The good guy to build a stable life with, while they planned the long game, waiting until the company grew valuable enough to gut. And now that it was thriving, they were preparing the exit strategy. Liquidate. Sell off assets. Trigger clauses in contracts that would grant them payout percentages I never agreed to. I didn't tell Daniel what I was going to do with this information. Because I already knew. I played my part for another week. Made her coffee. Sent her memes. Even gave her a back rub one night while she told me she was so overwhelmed with work. I smiled. It'll get easier, I told her. She kissed me, and I let her. 2 days later, I called my attorney. Her name's Marlene. Sharp as a knife and twice as quick. We'd worked together during the startup phase, and she owed me a favor. I gave her the files, everything Daniel found. I laid it out like a prosecutor building a murder case. She read in silence. When she finally looked up, her face was pale. They've committed fraud, she said. Multiple counts. I nodded. I know. Can we prove it? Oh, we can prove it. And we can bury them. I gave her the green light. Then I planned the endgame. It had to be public. Lisa needed to see exactly what it felt like to be stripped bare. The same way I felt when I stared at those photos of her in another man's arms. We had a company mixer coming up, something small, hosted at our office's rooftop space. Clients, investors, partners. She helped plan it every year. It was her moment to shine, as she called it. I let her organize the entire thing. Smiled at her color schemes, nodded at catering choices. Even helped her hang string lights the night before. Then I made the calls. On the day of the event, everything was perfect. Sunset glowing over the skyline. Soft jazz humming in the background. Lisa was radiant in a navy blue dress. Confident. Untouchable. She clinked a spoon against a champagne glass and raised a toast. To new beginnings, she said. I stepped forward and took the mic. I'd like to second that, I said, smiling. New beginnings. I reached into my coat and pulled out a folder. This is going to sound dramatic, but I promise it's very real. Over the past few months, I discovered that someone close to me, someone I trusted, has been working behind my back to dismantle everything I've built, both personally and professionally. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lisa's smile faded just slightly. I flipped open the folder. Meet Trevor Mattson. You may know him as our financial advisor, but what you probably don't know is that he and my wife, Lisa, have been siphoning funds, manipulating contracts, and preparing to walk away with nearly 40% of this company's assets. Illegally. Gasps. A few people actually dropped their drinks. I turned the mic slightly toward Lisa, who now looked pale and frozen. And while that betrayal would be enough to ruin most people, I said, what they didn't know was that I've spent the past month working with legal counsel and law enforcement to lock down every account, every contract, and every loophole they thought they could exploit. I turned to face her fully. Lisa, you've been served. Marlene stepped forward from the crowd like a phantom and handed Lisa the manila envelope. She didn't take it, so Marlene dropped it at her feet. Lisa opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. The silence was thunderous. Then, slowly, people began to step back. Not loudly, not cruelly, just distance. Like watching a ship sink and knowing there's nothing you can do to stop it. Trevor wasn't there. I made sure of that. He'd been served earlier that day at his office, escorted out by security after his firm received notice of a full-blown audit. By the time the evening was over, Lisa had fled without a word. And I stood there, in the glow of string lights, surrounded by stunned colleagues and hushed whispers, feeling still. Not vindicated. Not joyous. Just still. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to ruin her life with fists or fury. The truth had done it for me. Part 5. 3 weeks passed. In that time, Lisa's world crumbled in slow motion. Our home became quiet, sterile, like something died in it, and I hadn't had the courage to clean up the remains. She moved out the night after the party. Didn't even pack much. Took 2 suitcases, her laptop, and left a note I never read. I watched her from the upstairs window as she backed out of the driveway in silence. No drama. No tears. Just headlights fading into night. She didn't reach out. Not until last Friday. I came home to find her sitting on the porch like a ghost out of place. Hoodie pulled tight, makeup gone, face hollow. I could barely recognize her. I lost everything, she said without looking up. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Trevor's cutting a deal, she added. He's turning on me. Said I planned it all. Said he was manipulated. I raised an eyebrow. And were you? Her voice cracked. Does it matter? No, it didn't. I never wanted it to go this far, she whispered. I didn't say it, but I think that was the first honest thing she'd told me in years. She started crying. Real crying. The kind that made her shoulders shake. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it was performance. I didn't care anymore. Not because I hated her. Hate's a connection, and we had nothing left to connect. I loved you, she said. No, I finally answered. You loved what I could give you. The security. The image. The silence. She didn't argue. Eventually, she stood up and walked away without asking for forgiveness. That was the only gift she could have given me. And still, I didn't feel free. Because even after exposing her, even after burning it all down in front of her eyes, I realized something far worse. I hadn't been innocent, either. Not in the ways that matter. I let her drift. I ignored the growing gaps between us. I buried myself in work, in structure, in logic, because those things couldn't cheat on you. Couldn't lie in bed next to you and make you feel like a stranger in your own home. Years ago, Lisa asked me to go to counseling. Just once. I said no. Said I was fine. Told her we didn't need help. We just needed time. That was the night she stopped asking. That was the first crack. And maybe the biggest betrayal wasn't what she did behind my back, but what I refused to see when it was right in front of me. Still, betrayal doesn't excuse betrayal. I wasn't a perfect husband, but I wasn't a thief. I wasn't a liar. I didn't erase 9 years of someone's life for personal gain. No, that was hers to own. But I wasn't walking out of this clean either. Just less dirty. So I started over. Not in a blaze of glory. Not with champagne and dating apps and some fantasy of late-life freedom. I just lived. I cooked for myself. Took Ripley and Gizmo on long, quiet walks through the woods behind our neighborhood. Sold the house. Took a short trip out west. Rented a cabin. Climbed a mountain I'd once bookmarked on a travel blog and swore I'd see someday. And somewhere up there, about a mile above the noise of my old life, I let myself scream. Not because I was angry. Because I had finally run out of excuses to keep pretending I was okay. And when I came down, I wasn't reborn. I wasn't healed. But I was lighter. I returned home to a smaller apartment. No guest room. No his and hers closets. Just me. Then, out of nowhere, the last twist found me. A friend. Marcus. We'd known each other since college. Best man at my wedding. He reached out after the fallout. Not to console me, but to confess something. I knew, he said. My heart stopped. I knew about Lisa. Not the money part, not Trevor, but the cheating. I saw them once. At a bar. Together. They were close. How long ago? 5 months. I stared at him. Why didn't you tell me? He looked down. Because I didn't want to be the guy who ruined your marriage. I figured you'd find out. And honestly, part of me thought, maybe you already knew and just didn't want to admit it. That part hurt more than anything. Because he was right. A part of me did know. And I stayed. Smiled. Pretended. I was complicit in my own destruction. It wasn't one moment that shattered everything. It was 1,000 little compromises and the silence that grew between them. Lisa betrayed me. But I betrayed myself first. And that's what I carry with me now. Not just the memory of her lies, but the weight of my own apathy. The time I'll never get back. I won't lie and say I'm grateful for what happened. I won't tell you I'm stronger now, or that I've learned to trust again. What I will tell you is this. There's a moment when you're standing in the ruins of everything you built, and for the first time in forever, there's no one to lie to, not even yourself. That moment? That's where real healing starts. And it hurts like hell. But it's real. And after everything I've been through, I'll take real. Every damn time. The end.